Hello and welcome to the Core Outdoors Speaker Series. I'm your host, Jamie Moy, an adventure journalist based in the West Kootenay region of British Columbia. Core is the Kootenay Outdoor Recreation Enterprise. Once a month, Core produces this webinar to share valuable information in the outdoor rec tech space and to continue to strengthen its community of gear designers, makers, and manufacturers. Today, I am delighted to welcome Ana Kristiansson. She's an author, a podcaster, the CEO and founder of Portia. Ana is joining us today from Sweden, where she also runs Desinder, a design agency offering strategy, branding, design, and product development services for building sustainable brands. I have no idea how she has the time to join us today, but I'm incredibly grateful for that. Her topic today is designing for a sustainable future, the power of circular thinking. Ana, it's so great to have you here with us.
I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Tell me, would you like us to hold questions to the end for like a Q&A style, or would you like people to ask questions as you go?
No, let's go with the questions at the end. I think just to get, because I have a lot of slides and it's quite a meaty presentation. So at least I want to get the presentation going and then we'll see what we have time. Otherwise, people can send in the questions if they want, and then I'll answer them if we don't have time to do this here. How does that sound?
That sounds great. We'll hold questions to the end. And in that case, without further ado, go ahead and share your screen. Let's get this rolling.
Cool. There we go. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes,
Are we
let's
good? Yeah. Cool.
good.
All right, guys. So I will be talking to you about designing for a sustainable future, the power of circular thinking. Um, we have been working on circularity and sustainability for the past 6 years with all sorts of different brands. But first of all, who am I? Why am I here talking to you? So Ana Kristiansson,
Just
and
started, so I didn't miss anything. You could read my
no,
book if you want to decide it's terrible.
excuse me.
Just looks like we had someone coming in who wasn't quite muted
All
yet.
right.
It's fixed
All
now.
right. All right. So first, Desinder, it's the design agency that I've been running for about 17 years together with my business partner. And we help primarily outdoor and sports brand with everything from strategy, branding, design, and product development. We're based in Stockholm, Sweden. We're a team of 5, and we work with brands, everything from small startups to multi-million dollar companies. The second company that I run is called Portia, and because we've worked with hundreds of brands through Desinder, and we've kind of seen under the hood with how they operate, they usually lack processes, systems, kind of a tool that holds everything together. So that's why we started and we launched Portia, which is a software tool helping brands keep everything, all their entire operation basically in one space. So you've got team communication, you've got product management, now also supply chain traceability, and also now the coming digital product passport. So all that is put into one platform. And I also run Apparel Entrepreneurship, and this is an online educational platform. We sit primarily on YouTube. There's a podcast as well. I wrote a book as well, where we help people start and run successful apparel businesses. And it's primarily DIY startups here, and then more the established businesses or the startups that have funding, they come to Desinder. But for the people that don't have any funding, we help them through apparel entrepreneurship. And so my focus today with this presentation is I'm going to cover circular business models. I will be covering designing products for circularity, how to communicate circularity to build trust and stand out, and KPIs to track. And I want you to be inspired and feel motivated and give you ideas to implement and take action on. And it's going to be a very meaty presentation. And so where are we? What's the situation today? Business as usual is dead. The linear model no longer makes financial sense. And we've seen a lot of raised costs. We're seeing overproduction. We're looking at discounts. We've got margins that are getting killed. It's not how it used to be. Business is not how it used to be. Circular design reduces risk and creates multiple revenue loops from the same product. And this is something that we want, because we are seeing that instead of selling the product once and just kind of like leave it, it's better to sell the product twice or three times and then keep the people coming back to you, back into your company, either to buy secondhand products or to buy new products, but at least you're keeping them in your world. We've got regulations going on. We've got a lot of brands talking and working transparently. And then, of course, this is also affecting design. And then also customers at the moment, they're choosing brands that they can trust and that deliver on their promise. And they're kind of moving away from companies that are kind of cheating them, so to say. And so why is it important that we are designing for circularity? Because linear growth is breaking, kind of like what I just mentioned. We've got supply chain disruptions and raising costs. We've got consumer that demands it with improved brand reputation. We've got the legislation coming. We've got brands that want to diversify their risk and then their sales as well. Now, more than ever, with the tariffs and everything, we need to save some costs. Overproduction kills the margins, and it's also, of course, the planet. We've got price volatility. And also, now more than ever, it's important that brands are being leaders instead of followers and are daring to innovate, even though it's shaky ground. And then, of course, because of the new business opportunities, so we've got resale and second life that's booming at the moment. And of course, the planet. And some stats to kind of like back all this up. So we've got the world
Anna?
produces some. Yeah.
I'm no longer seeing your presentation.
That is very strange.
Is that happening for anybody else?
Who is not seeing the presentation?
That's Jamie. Oh, there it is.
Okay. That's strange. We're on again. Thank you. Let's continue with the stats. So the world produces 120 million tons of textile waste every year. Are you seeing the presentation again, or is it gone again?
Sent out of the area. Not even the parliamentarian would receive.
Again. I think we've been hacked. Hold on.
Yeah, because I'm not seeing the green screen around it.
Yeah, strange. Go ahead and I'm gonna lock the meeting maybe because it looks like people are kind of like jumping in. Go ahead and share. Thank you.
Okay, let's see again. What about now?
Looks good.
All right. Scary. All right. So back to the stats. The world produces 120 million tons of textile waste every year, with most products ending up in landfill or them being incinerated. That's not good. And the overconsumption, the consumption of clothing and footwear is expected to increase by 63% by 2030, from 62 million tons to 102 million tons. 57% of all discarded clothes end up in landfill, and 25% is incinerated globally. We've got textile to textile recycling. That's about 1%, with most of the waste ending up in landfill or incineration. And then we've got circa 15% of fabric used in garment production is wasted in cutting and scraps and offcuts. And of course, what does this mean? It means that it's a lot of wasted opportunity, a lot of waste of money and resources. So most of the products end up in incineration or as waste. So what does that mean is that the new legislation that's pushing and is coming for the industry means that we need to shift from the linear model to the circular economy model. Basically, this is a quick illustration for what it needs to be doing. So instead of wasting resources, we need to be putting resources back into the loop, and we need to be using the product more and more and more per every single product. This is Pete Seeger, and he said, if it can't be reduced, reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, resold, recycled, or composed, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. We actually have several customers that have this quote up on their wall as a reminder and as a guide to where they should be heading. And so as a quick, I'm not going to read this, but this is the model that we're needing to shift from the linear economy, where we've got a lot of materials that are being wasted, all the way up to the top where we are actually refusing the things, and then we're rethinking, reducing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, remanufacture, repurpose, recycle, and then recover everything. So again, basically it's about the bottom line, right? It's about earning money and saving money, especially in terms of a business, because a business that doesn't make money is not doing well. So everybody knows that we need to be making money, and we need to be looking at the opportunities that we can to leverage as much as possible with a minimal environmental damage. So we're looking at efficiency and optimization of operations. We're looking at saving time and decreasing use of resources. We're looking at doing more with less, and we're looking at bringing in revenue with new business models. So the opportunities with circular solutions. So we've got in 2025, the global market value of secondhand and resale apparel is at about $256 billion US. That is a lot of money. And rental, we're looking at about 2.6 billion, is expected to grow to 6.4. And then in terms of repair, we're looking at 9.7 billion. So it's a lot of money that can be gotten in these areas. So there's no doubt, whatever CEO that says, oh, we don't really believe, we don't think it's going to work. Well, this is the proof that obviously it can work. And so what type of circular business models could you be implementing in your business? Of course, resellers, we're seeing a lot of companies doing this, either by themselves or they have a third party that does this for them. We're looking at repair services. We know a particular European company, they earn more money now with their repair service than they do by selling their goods, because they have a fantastic facility that can do this for them. You've got the rental opportunity here as well, either short-term or subscription-based. And there's, of course, trace and buyback programs. They could also work. You've got spare parts and repair kits that can be sold as, again, and then the entire subscription model where you've got ongoing access, or you can swap, or you can maintain for a monthly fee. And we're seeing a handful of companies that are testing this right now. You also have the upcycling and remanufacturing of products. So basically turning waste and samples or damaged item into new products. You're having recycling and, if it's possible, fibers of fiber, so recovering materials and then putting them back into new products. We also have a former client that does this really successfully. And then the digital product passport and QR codes, they can support the circular system into putting products, guiding the customer into care, repair, resell, and basically supporting you as a brand to guide the customer into looping them into different circular models. And the number 10 here is made to order and pre-order model. And we also have a couple of clients that have started right now to do just a couple of styles on the pre-order model, just to see how that would go. So they are treating this as a little project to see how this works. So basically, circularity is not one thing. It's a set of solutions that you can plug into your business today and test different things. Of course, some of them are not going to give you ROI from day one, but if we're looking long term, this could be a really good strategy. And so how many times a garment is worn is the biggest factor in its environmental impact. And what that means is longevity. The more we use a product, it's dictated by 3 different factors. So you've got the physical, you've got the emotional, and then the psychological factor. The physical one is, of course, the aspect of the product, like materials and construction and fit. And then you've got the emotional aspect, which is if you have some sort of a nostalgia or memories, or basically your emotional connection to it. And then you've got the psychological aspect, which is kind of like where you're just making a decision that, oh, I'm only going to use this product once, or I know I'm buying a pair of socks. I know these will only last me, I don't know, 2 months, and then they're going to break. So you're buying things with different types of needs. And so I'm going to give you a set of tools now for how to design products for longevity, circularity, and brand building. And all these tools are implemented. We've implemented them and we've worked on these with our clients. So first one is like if you're seeing the little t-shirt here, they're all attached. So when you're going to see the little icons, you're going to see which of these aspects those sections are attached to. So designing for demand, for example, this has to do with the physical aspect. So if you're seeing the icons, that's what I want you to kind of like keep in mind. So first one out is designing for demand. So basically you've seen the Lululemon thing, like, oops, we made too much. Now you help us get these products off our hands. I mean, you can't really do that as a company. Yeah, you can, but it's not a very good strategy. It's kind of going to damage your reputation and is going to put you in a position where basically you're showing that you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to buy your product. So we're looking at shifting from demand-driven production into design out overproduction. So basically on solds and discounts, you're looking to completely remove those. And 30% of all the products produced is never sold or is sold at ridiculous discounts. What you don't want, of course, these 30%, it's lost money. So how can you design for demand? Well, you can look at your supply chain, and then you can also ask you a set of questions. So, for example, what product does your customer want or need? I'll look into that. And for each product, you can ask, do you need to create it? You can look at what are your best sellers and worst sellers and make decisions based on that. What products do you do best that no other competitor does? You can lean into those. And if you would drop 25% of the collection, basically your tail that's not selling so good, what styles would you drop? Those are usually they're shelf warmers anyways. And what products are most representative of your brand? Of course, leaning into those. And what products have you already designed that can be tweaked, reconstructed, redesigned, optimized, and maximized for longevity? Then look into those and do the changes necessary. Number 2 is design for purpose and function. So here, of course, as sport and outdoor brand, it's kind of easy to say that, but even lately, more brands have attached lifestyle products. And all of a sudden, one of our most popular workshop is a collection range, like workshop where we look at an entire clothing range, and then we see what's missing. Why do we have duplicates? Why are the prices kind of like cannibalizing on each other? Why does the collection look so scattered? And most of the time it's because brands just like add more styles and they don't take the time to actually look like an entire collection. So you're not seeing, you're just throwing in products and not looking at what is the actual purpose and function with this product. Does this product need to exist? So here you're looking at design features, the components, the trims to have a specific intended use, because you do not want cannibalization on the different styles. So what is the intended use of this product, and what features does the product need to do to support the user? And don't add things to the product for embellishment if it doesn't help the user. So if it doesn't have any function, don't add it. You can design it out. And do you already have similar products? Then don't add the new one. Design it out. So rather looking at restricting, adding new products. And then we're looking at designing for durability. And this has the biggest impact on making sure that the products last a very long time. So here, of course, use quality, strong, durable material, components, and construction method chosen to match the product purpose for the target customer. And sometimes, yes, it's easy as sports and outdoor brands to do that. But again, we're adding more and more products to the collection, and the kind of products themselves get diluted. So it's worth to get reminded of this. So what can you be looking at in terms of durability? For materials, you can look at the right fiber, the right strength, the right weight. In terms of finishing, you can use eco finishes like anti-stain or antimicrobial finishings, just so you can use the products longer instead of constantly having to wash them. In terms of components, looking at the right components, strong components, and not delicate ones that can easily break, and then the components that you can exchange easily. In terms of construction, here we're looking at the right type of seaming with the right type of thread, and then of course opt for easy repair construction where possible. I know we've worked with so many brands, they have no idea even what type of thread they're using. It just says local in their PLM, and you're like, yeah, but local what is it? They have no idea. And where do most of the products break? Well, in seams. So it's unfortunate. In terms of testing in materials and product, we're looking at actually testing the materials properly for chemicals, flammability, color fastness, tensile abrasion, and pilling. And then what many brands don't have the time to do is do proper human testing, because now we're trying to rush out products faster and faster because of the timelines and the deadlines, and we want the products to get to customer way faster because the lead times are speeding up. And then we're looking at designing for timelessness. And here we're looking at slow design. So basically creating products that stand against trends, where you can use classical cuts and design lines, and where you can use colors that can be combined with existing colors in your range or the customer's own wardrobes, and they can mix and match outfits. And of course, not all the products need to be like this, but if you have a majority that are designed and thought out in this way, of course it's easier both for you to kind of like cross merchandise your products, and also for the customer to keep the products and then actually kind of come back and buy more from you. And then we're looking at designing for versatility. So basically, instead of creating more products, we're looking at having products that do more for their wearer. So design products to be used in many different environments and weather conditions. And here, of course, we work with layers and garment combination, but also you can design products to be reversible or modular or layered and work for both outdoor and urban environments. We're looking also here to design for minimal water, energy, and chemical use. And this is, of course, has to do with your supply chain. So basically diving deep into the supply chain and looking at what materials you're using and how they are created and how the factories are working with them. So use materials that are created with less water, less chemicals. And then, of course, if possible, in general, if you can also reduce the entire packaging. We've worked with brands that completely reduced their entire packaging. They're not shipping them in the poly bags anymore. They just come with a loop around the product itself, so not even like a package on top. And then, of course, now if we can opt for more natural fibers and source locally and also manufacture locally, that would be best. We're looking at designing for minimal waste. This is a great exercise and quite fun. And now there's some fantastic tools that manufacturers can work with, where you can look at on how to optimize the both design and then also the waste that you're producing from your offcuts and from your pattern. So here it's, of course, that where you're looking at the waste, both the pre and post consumer, but looking also at creating zero waste cutting and recycling or reusing the waste. We know companies that create accessories from all their waste. So they're never the 15% that I mentioned. They're never wasting those 15% because they're creating things with those 15%. Another thing that you can try is design for gender fluidity. So basically kind of like merge SKUs because now we've got Gen Z consumers. They are looking more into gender fluid products and they like buying those better than actually a specific gender. We're looking at designing, of course, for full freedom of movement and instant comfort. And of course, this should be achieved through phenomenal pattern making, but you can also cheat a little bit by using stretch materials where possible. And you can look at designing a relaxed fit where products allow, of course, so they can also work well with many body types. You can use adjustments where possible to fit customization, and you can design for optimal engineering pattern construction. So this is, again, where expertise is extremely, extremely important. And we can also design for easy care and repairability. And this one we've seen more and more companies do, and being really skilled at in educating the customers, because what we want the products to be, we want them to be easy to wash and easy to dry and keep clean at home, especially with merino products. I know, because we work with so many companies, their biggest problem is that people are washing the products wrong, so they basically destroy the products in washing, which is very unfortunate. We also want the products to be easy to mend and repair. Also, instruct and educate customers on how to best care for the products and where to go to get help. And this is, again, where the digital product passport will come handy. What we're looking at as well is designing for long-term value. And here we're seeing on secondhand platforms that the products that are extremely good quality, these are the products that have a really high resale value. And of course, this is great for the brand itself, but also for the resale platform. And if you have a resale platform on your own platform, then this means that the customer comes back to you, and then you're selling the product again and again and again. Also look at designing with new technology. And here is, of course, when you're looking at so many sampling products in the sampling process, you can reduce that number drastically when you're using new technology, especially within new Cloud 3D or Browseware or Style 3D. You can always make sure that before going straight into making a technical, going straight into sampling, you can do the sampling more or less in these 3D platforms and redo and have a better first sample than doing a second or a third sample. We're looking at, of course, adding the new business models. I've already mentioned those, but these are when you're implementing them and kind of like playing with different modules, you can see that they also support each other, because you're giving the customer more and more alternatives to come back to you, because if they have special needs in terms of how they would want to approach you and use you as a brand, they could do that. We're looking at designing for recycling. And of course, here the important part is using monomaterial and having the products for easy assembly, and to have a system to recycle your own natural synthetic fibers for production and reuse them in future products. And this, you could be sending them to third parties, or you can be implementing your own platform as well to do this. And design for upcycling. Here we've got Rayborn. He's really known for doing this, where you actually create new styles from products or materials that can no longer be resold. So you can do either accessories or badge or patchwork garments or whatever, just basically using dead stock materials or returned products that you can put back into the system. And use storytelling and engagement. Again, if the customer does not understand why you're doing this and doesn't have a clear emotional connection to what you're creating, they won't care. So here it's important to actually share, why was the product created? What's the story behind that? What great new materials or technology was used? What are the unique value propositions for the product? What does this product have that no other product has? And basically sharing those stories. And in terms of transparency and traceability, we've seen that when brands share transparently what they're doing, of course, the trust is way higher, and they can also use this data to actually put back into creating new products and giving the customers better products, or products that they actually want. And especially now with the digital product passport, this is a fantastic way that you can have a full traceability in your supply chain, and you can transparently share this in your marketing, in your storytelling with your customers. And then if you don't advocate for change, nobody will care. So again, what is the cause that you're fighting for? educate and communicate those efforts, because when people understand and they care about the same thing, they will rally the troops, and then they will be supporting you on all platforms. And here it's important to actually take some sort of a stand and and share what you believe in, so the customers can join you. And in a way, they can also give back to you, because when you have a common platform, of course, you fight for the same cause. And in terms of communication, because this has been quite challenging for brands in terms of sustainability and especially circularity, this is what in most cases looks like a black box. Like, what can we share? How should we share? What can we say? We're not really sure. And basically, your supply chain is your brand's biggest untapped storytelling engine. 88% of Gen Z consumers expect brands to prove their social and environmental claims. And this is really important. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Why is this important? Because we've all seen these headlines, right? We've seen the brands that they say one thing and then they do another thing. And what happens is that customers no longer trust you. So what is this that we want to do? We want to create authenticity and transparency. And then transparency is also what kind of like loops back into the brand. So you've got the transparency that goes into loyalty, that goes into trust, that goes into connection, that goes into brand building. And so it goes and it reinforces your brand and creates a stronger bond with your customers. And so in terms of transparency, what does that actually mean to be transparent? Well, you basically tell the truth. You show your work and you let people in, and you're accountable for what you say. And what does that look like? You can show what products are made of. You can trace and share the supply chain. You can use clear and honest language, and you can involve the customers in the journey, and you can share your emotional impact or environmental impact, and you can offer repair, care, and end-of-life information. And of course, all these are kind of interconnected to one another. Usually it looks like this when it comes to sharing the information from brands. One, we don't know. We actually have no idea what our supply chain looks like because we work with agents, so we don't know. Or they know, but they don't actually want to fully know because they could ask, and if they ask, they would get something that they don't want to hear. So then it's kind of like a locked locker. They don't want to look inside it. But the path forward, of course, is to go from fear to a first step. So what does that look like? What do brands need to do? So here, you don't need to have a perfect supply chain because there's nothing like a perfect supply chain. But you need to have a transparent process for what to look for and how to communicate that. So first, we're looking at audit and assess. The second one is adjust or replace. And then the third one is co-create and collaborate with your suppliers. So here, looking at your supply chain, but then kind of re-engineering that and more viewing at that as a story chain. And a story chain is a sequence of people, places, and processes that, when illuminated, creates a narrative for more compelling and believable than any ad campaign you could ever buy. And you can unlock this in 3 steps. So the first one is where you identify your proof points. And you're looking at your supply chain, tier 1, 2, 3, 4, how far back you can actually go into finding the raw materials and seeing all the materials and the production, and you get that data. So where are your fabrics from? Who dyed your fabrics and who made your garments? And of course, here, there's nothing like perfection, but you need to look for honesty. So find what you can and start with what you can see. And of course, 80% of impact happens before the product is made, and that's why visibility matters. So that's kind of like where your focus area should be. And then you can create stories from data. So it's not just a factory in Vietnam, but you can be very specific. Maybe it is a family-owned facility that achieved a best-in-class water recycling program. So you can actually go deeper and interview the people that have created your product. And the step number 2 is where you find the human element. And here, this is the emotional connection. So you've got your raw data, and then you move that into something that's consumer friendly. So instead of saying that factory and then the number, whatever, you're looking at something that's way human, then say that made by skilled artisans in Portugal using 30 or 76% less emissions. Something like that, at least something that people can relate to. And brand stop after collecting the data, but they don't translate it. So consumer, they can't, of course, look at your spreadsheet and understand that. You need to find some sort of a meaning into the data. Also how to make that human, also how to make that relevant, and turn that traceability into connecting story. So look at the people, because people like to buy from people, like to connect with people. So what are the stories? So who's the farm manager? What's that story? Who's the artisan who hand sews the button? What's his story? And stories that are highly emotional and character driven are 20 times more memorable than facts. Your supply chain is full of these characters, so give them a voice. And then we're looking at step number 3, and this is where you're crafting the story structure. So examples of storytelling. Here we're looking at a product page with transparency info. You've got the QR code on a tag that people can scan. You've got an Instagram reel about sourcing journey. So you can create on whatever platforms, you can share these stories with your customers. And in here is that you can share the story in every touch point. And of course, it's not just through your website or packaging, social material, customer service. You can do this everywhere, also in your educational, with the people on the floor, so they can actually tell those stories. Because it's way more interesting to tell someone, oh, look, this the factory that made this product, they're a family-owned factory, and they have so and so many workers, and they're located here, and instead of saying, yeah, this has, it's really cute, it's got 2 pockets and a hoodie. So it's completely like shifting the focus on the product. And so in terms of the transformation, you can look at the transformation of raw fiber into a finished garment, and you're not making things up, because all of a sudden you're showing the truth, you're sharing the truth, so nobody can say that you're cheating them or that they feel that you're being untruthful. And then you can take the proof from your data and add the human fact and build a story that is real and unforgettable. And there's some red flags usually when we share this with customers. Like, yeah, but if I share all this, then competitors will come and copy us. Like, how is that going to be? I don't really feel like it's, a good thing, a good path for us to take. Yeah, but you don't have to share everything. You can share what you feel is, again, like on a human level. And you can share pictures from the factory. You don't need to say it's that exact factory from that location. Of course, it's good if you can, but if you don't find that you want to, you don't necessarily need to do that. But you can still share pictures from the factory with the people that have created the product, and to see, the craftsmanship, and that it's actually made properly, and the facility and all that. And you can talk about the value of your products, but don't have to share exactly the costs and margins if you don't want to. There's companies that do. We've got Askit here in Sweden. They are fully transparent with their pricing. And on their website, you can see literally everything, where their material comes from, their impact, because you get basically, I think I had here, it's these guys. You get an impact receipt, so you can see super clearly exactly their price. So there's nothing to hide. They can't hide on crazy margins and say, well, yeah, we have a phenomenal product, but then they're actually making it really cheaply in some shady place in the world. And you can share, of course, behind the scenes, but you can choose what to share and when. And so here are some ideas on what you can share if you don't exactly know what. You can share why you chose the fabric. You can do a deep dive on that. You can look for the code of conduct, if it So if you simplify that, you can share that because it shares that you actually care, that you're manufacturing ethically, and that you're thinking and you're caring about the people that are working in your factories. You can share things like meet the supply chain, and then not just the factory, and then you share all that. And you can look at first product versus now. So basically an evolution of standards for where it used to be and now how many percentage of sustainable materials have implemented, or that you've started working with 3 new factories, and these 3 new factories are conducting better practices. For example, you can do quality and performance testing. These are usually a lot of fun for customers to see, because it really shows the durability or the making of your product, so they actually understand what they get. You can do a timeline of a garment, how long it took, and share that, and how many hands it's been touched by. This is also a lot of fun to share. You can share design direction and sketch process. A lot of companies, I've seen Patagonia has done this quite a lot recently. And it's, again, a lot of fun because customers want to see the behind the scenes. They don't want it to be, in behind closed doors. They want to see. They want to peek behind the curtains and kind of check it out. The product that they're buying, how was it made? And you can share pattern making and sample development. This is also a lot of fun because here you can also be super transparent with, we tried these samples and they were complete crap. So we had to do these changes. And then all of a sudden they understand the reason why you've done what you've done and the reason why the product ended up being what it ended up being. You can talk about rejected ideas or prototypes. You can talk about material research and selection. Of course, share your entire supply chain map. So basically a garment story journey. You can let your suppliers do a Q&A takeover. This is also quite a lot of fun because, again, you shed light on them, and they are not just someone that you pay to do your stuff. All of a sudden, they're becoming your partner. So it's more a 50-50 collaboration instead of like your subcontractors, like you use someone that you're paying and they just make your stuff and that's it. And then you can let your community get involved in the product design. And we've seen some really successful projects in this sphere where the entire community has been, there's a Swedish company and they actually have their community co-design and co-create all their products with them. They send out questionnaires and they get to vote and they get to send in ideas. And so that's how they're creating their products. They're called Astrid Wild. So they're a females only outdoor brand. They're really, really cool. Founded by two chicks. And here is one of our customers that we've worked with. These guys we're talking about transparency. These guys are extremely transparent. Basically on all the products that they have on their website, you can see their entire supply chain. You can see it all the way down to exactly what it's made of, who's made it, all the components, where it comes from, literally everything. So again, if you as a customer or if your customers want proof that what you're saying is valid, then this is where they'll go and this is where they can find there's nothing to hide. And then we're gonna look at some KPI areas because here it's like kind of tricky to see what KPIs what to track in terms of circularity and product design and longevity and durability. And so here are a couple of ideas that you can keep in mind if you want to move in this direction. So you can look at, in terms of a product and design, you can look at longevity and use. So here you can look at the average product lifespan. So basically years of use, and how you do this, of course, you need to have a really close communication with your customers, and you can do this through questionnaires and through polls and things like that. You can look at cost per wear, cost per use. You can look at a repair rate, so percentage of products repaired versus replaced. You can look at warranty claim reduction, for example, in terms of the design. You can look at percentage of collection designed for repair and disassembly. A lot of companies don't think about this in the design phase. And of course, especially with laminated products, taped products, it's really hard, but it's still a possibility. But if you're looking at these and having these almost as checkpoints when you're designing, all of a sudden your products look completely different. You can look at percentage of monomaterial or easily separated materials. You can look at percentage of recycled or renewable inputs. And then, of course, you can look at modular components per product. In terms of revenue, here you could be looking at new revenue streams. We've talked already about the resale, repair, subscription, rental, take-back programs, for example. Here you're looking at percentage of the revenue from those models. And what does that look like? What is the trajectory and how can you tweak and adjust to actually suit you? Maybe you don't even want to implement several. Maybe you're only going to focus on one. Then at least the data is going to reveal where the direction that you need to go into. And then we're looking at inventory and risk, and of course dead stock reduction, year on year percentage. It's dead stock is just money sitting on the shelf, so it's just not very clever, but trying to reduce that. The sell-through rate, of course, looking at how to improve that. Write-offs, again, how can you improve those? And in terms of operations and your supply chain, from an efficiency perspective, we're looking at the material waste reduction, looking at production rework reduction, and lead time improvements through smarter design. In terms of traceability and compliance, you're looking at percentage of products with traceable material data and the entire transparency, supply chain transparency, and then looking at the DPPs and how ready are your products for the coming regulations that are happening in the world. And DPPs right now, they're not digital product passports. Many think that they're just a tool. It's great, but we're just going to implement those because the regulations are coming. Actually, we're seeing them more as a connector to the end consumer and a place where you can build a closer relationship with them and get to learn about what they want, get the data that you need to make better decisions, and basically get the feedback, especially through our Portia solution in our DPP. The end consumer can actually give you feedback and you will have a one-to-one communication. And there's no platform today where you can directly have a one-to-one communication with your end consumer in their phone, because you've got older algorithms of social media, you've got the email, but maybe you don't have an email because you have a form on your website, so who are they talking to? And then or you have a bot or whatever, but here you can have a direct communication with your customer, and basically, like, if they give you feedback, it's something that you can implement back into the collections, back into your product to actually make smarter decisions and better products to support your customers' needs and wants. So what we're seeing here is that the circular future sits at the intersection. So the biggest impact is found at the intersection of product quality and durability, the circular solutions, transparency, and connection with end consumer. And of course, in these times, data is what you can get from all these three. And without data, yes, you can follow trends, and yes, you can have hunches, yes, you can know that we've always done things like this, but now data helps you get to market and makes you pivot in the fastest way possible. We also created something called Sustain 20 because we've worked with so many different instances to get to companies to collaborate, because everybody's saying, you go to all the events and all the fairs, everyone's like, yeah, we need to collaborate, we need to partner, yada, yada, yada. Everyone's saying the same thing over and over for now, like 3, 4, 5 years. And you're like, yeah, sure, let's collaborate. How? Where do we do this? Do you have a list? Yeah, we have a great list with a lot of companies. Great. Can you share that list? No, it's on our intellectual property. So got really pissed off. And so we're like, okay, screw that. So we're going to create our own. So we basically built an open platform. It's called Sustain 20, where you can go and add your solution. If you have some sort of a circular solution, you can add it here. It's free to use, free to add, free to collaborate, free to do whatever you want, and find partners and collaborators on this platform, just because we wanted to facilitate easier collaboration for the industry. And so basically a lot of information, a lot of things to take away, but basically what do I want you to take away? First, decide, and then you align all your entities, and then you make a decision to match that. And you, in order to do it in the best way possible, is to do small business cases to check the cost and ROI before going all in. You can easily do that with AI today without having to spend any money on it. And then another thing is that you could start with the low-hanging fruit first. That has the biggest impact and most leverage for you as a company. And so, yeah, well, people were the ones to create the linear economy. We're also having the power to move that into a circular economy. So what do we need to do? We need to be bold and brave and to actually take a stand and slightly, quietly move into that direction. So yes, it's tough out there. The industry is a mess and the world is a mess, but we have to remember tomorrow there's always a glimmer of hope. And that was me. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, if you are not already, or if you want to check out Portia or ask me questions or send me stuff and have whatever, this is where you can find me. And that was the presentation.
Thank you so much for that, Anna. That was an incredible job of cramming all of that information in such a short period of time. That was absolutely a masterclass.
Yeah. So what does it look like for you guys? How far into this are you? Implement, what's the word? Have you implemented any of this already? Like, what's the status?
I'm not really coming from a producing point of view, like more from self-employment coaching through the Work BC program. But it's definitely something anyone who's interested in any kind of manufacturing, like I took a lot of very detailed notes. So I'm looking forward to sort of directing them to some of these practices for sure. At least putting it on their radar.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, again, like I was talking about low-hanging fruit, there's a lot of things that you can do that because of the processes and the systems that are not there in terms of just how the product development is set into brands. And sometimes when we come and we just suggest and talk about this, they're like, duh, like it doesn't take more effort, it doesn't cost more money, it's just that they're not used to thinking this way and that far ahead in the either before the product that actually even is thought about or put on the in the range plan, or later in the design phase. They're like, they don't even have the thinking that they could actually be increasing the durability way more, just like small things with, draw cords, or like I mentioned the thread. I mean, it never gets old because we always bring it up. And we're like, yeah, so where does your thread come from? And many are like, it's local. Yeah, great. What does that mean? Great. So yeah. And also it's a fun exercise, I think, to be doing, like how much of these things could we be implementing? Because it's not just things that are, just taking effort, but it could just literally bring back so much revenue into the company and build trust within consumer and kind of like connect and all that. That's why I wanted to talk about all these aspects, and not just from a design point of view, but also from a connector point to the end consumer, to the supply chain, kind of like it's all connected, right? Yeah. Anybody else?
I do have a small company, and we've really focused on it's a very niche product, but we spend a lot of time on the design and trying to choose the fabric that will be the most durable. Our kind of biggest competitor, their product doesn't last, like it lasts such a short time that it's like almost offensive to the customer. So we've really been trying to create something that will last a lot longer, but the way that it's used, it's a very hard wearing use case. So I was trying to think through, it's like, well, we could offer repair, but there's like a point when it just gets threadbare and you can't really repair that anymore.
Can you make it, can I ask you what it is?
So it's coveralls to wear when you're exploring caves.
Okay. So basically, where does it break? At the elbows, knees, and at the instep?
So we've already designed it, like the seams to not be at the elbows, but to move the seams away from that. Similar with the knees, but the knees is always going to be the knees and the butt, so it has double the amount of fabric on the knees and the butt. But then like just the rise of the seam on the side of your leg will always be a particular wear spot. There isn't a seam on in the middle of your butt because that will wear. We thought about it, but there's just like a point when it won't be repairable.
Yeah, and of course you're using Cordura or something like that. Like, what are you using?
Yeah. So it's a 6/6 nylon with a silicone coating on top.
Yeah, but you could potentially be, of course, pattern making it in a different way so that you can just replace that. So you can make it as a kind of like a car. You just, if someone hits you from the side, you just remove the door. So you don't have to. So you could be thinking in modular terms potentially.
I guess. So then, but because you're working with fabric, like your patch piece has to be like the seam allowance of the thing it attaches to larger to cover up what's getting threadbare on that side.
Yeah.
As well, probably. Yeah.
All right.
In the early slides, the growth in consumption, is that driven by other countries getting wealthier, or is that population growth? Is like how much is consumers' taste changing and reducing? Because that number is pretty scary.
Which one do you mean?
I think it was saying in 2030 that
this one.
Sorry, it's just small, but probably.
Well, it's just consumers wanting to buy more. I don't have more information than what the info that I've found, but it's just like how with the rising population and more countries getting not wealthier but better, like for example Asia, I mean they're getting more and more wealthy, but also in Europe, like people are having, even though the economy is strained, the middle class is not, it's kind of like growing. So it's just a population thing. But I'm thinking in no matter what, and also of course with the amount of kind of like fast fashion and cheap products, you can just buy more and more and more of that, and it's like it doesn't cost you anything. So it's just easier to consume, easier to buy. So I'm thinking it must have something to do with that as well. That is just a demand. Do you have a deeper thought about that, or?
It was just disappointing to see that we don't expect the general population's habits to change.
No, it's kind of how should I say, like actually personally recently in the past this past 6 months, I've worked in the outdoor industry, in this fashion or sports industry for 26 years now, and this is the first time that I've several times in the past 6 months I've asked myself, like, am I in the right, should I just do completely something completely different? Because the industry is going, everybody's talking about sustainability, but nobody's implementing it. Everybody wants to, and also we talk to suppliers and manufacturers daily. They're like, yeah, asking suppliers for recycled materials, but then when the supplier says, yes, it costs you 10 cents more, they don't want to pay that. So they choose the virgin. So it's this frustration that it's in all the events that we go to. Everybody's saying the same thing. We have to, but nobody implements the work. Nobody takes the responsibility. So it's very frustrating right now. Even in I'm sure you've seen the latest Business of Fashion, the State of Fashion 2026. It's like sustainability is not even mentioned in there as a top priority. It's not. It's gone from the agenda. So it's right now, it's like this uphill battle is very freaking steep. Yeah. Yep. But there's some brave ones, so we need to keep hope and positivity, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anna, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think we'll wrap it up at that point.
Yes.
Thanks again. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our webinar for December. We'll be back in January. Stay tuned to CORE's social channels for the date and speaker, or even better, go to the CORE website and get yourself on the email distribution list so you don't miss a thing. All right, it's a wrap. I'm going to sign off the meeting. If you'd like to unmute and say goodbye, let's do that. And farewell and happy holidays, as it were.